I'm Jim Donovan.
And I'm Janelle. Burrell. Next at noon, Vice President Harris is in our area today.
We'll have full coverage of her speech at the NAACP convention in Atlantic City. Larissa.
Well, I'm also tracking the threat for severe weather later on this afternoon. I'll have the forecast coming up.
Plus, police just released a photo of a suspect in a sexual assault on a SEPTA platform.
The news at noon starts right here in 60 seconds. Stay with us.
Live from the CBS Broadcast Center in Philadelphia, this is CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
Right now at noon, more violence at a SEPTA station. What we're learning about a sexual assault investigation on the Broad Street line.
And Vice President Kamala Harris making a trip to Atlantic City. We have live coverage of her speech at the NAACP convention.
But first, we're tracking the threat of severe weather this afternoon. Storms headed our way could bring heavy rain and strong winds to the tri-state area. Welcome to CBS Philadelphia. I'm Jim Donovan.
And I'm Janelle Burrell, and we are excited this afternoon because we are coming to you live from our brand new state-of-the-art set right here at our headquarters in the heart of Philadelphia.
We'll be showing you our new space throughout the show, but for now, let's get to our top stories, including that severe threat of weather later today. Let's get a live look over the Philadelphia skyline this noon. Right now, we're feeling that heat and humidity, but in a few hours, we'll go from steamy to stormy as well.
And there is a next weather alert issued for parts of our viewing area this afternoon. Meteorologist Larissa Abreu is in the next weather center tracking it all for us. And Larissa, it has been steamy out there, the heat, all of that combining for the potential for severe storms.
And that is absolutely right. We've been tracking this cold front that's going to trigger the threat for storms later on this afternoon. We're talking specific timing between 4 p.m. tonight and 10 p.m., between 4 and 10. And we're tracking not only the chance for heavy rain, but even the possibility for a few brief spin-ups. I'm going to get to that in a moment, but right now I want to start us off with our severe weather outlook. Part of the region has been upgraded to a slight risk for those strong to severe storms. And that's where we have that yellow shade. That is all southeastern parts of the state. Meanwhile, New Jersey still under a marginal risk for those stronger storms to develop later today. We had a warm front move through the region earlier this morning. It primed the atmosphere. It is air you can wear out there. It's stifling. The heat and humidity are quite elevated. And we have a couple of individual pop-up storms here out ahead of our cold front that's going to be marching on through as the day presses on. Temperatures later today, 90 degrees. That's our high here in Philly, around 85 along the Jersey Shore. Low 80s if you find yourself up in the Poconos with heavy afternoon, evening thunderstorms on tap for us. And this is our severe weather threat for today. The timing of it all between 4 and 10 p.m. tonight. 60-mile-an-hour wind gusts. That's going to be the #1 concern. But because there's so much moisture in the air, any one of these storms can trigger heavy rain, and that can lead to flooding. A brief spin-up is not out of the question as well. So when I see you next, we're going to go ahead and take a look at timing, plus our other big story, this heat that's going to be building over the next several days. And we're tracking it's going to be very hot over the next several days. So I'll have more on that in about 10 minutes.
Thank you, Larissa. And of course, stay with Eyewitness News for continuing coverage of today's potential for severe weather. Even when we aren't on the air, you can always get the latest on CBSPhilly.com and our streaming service, CBS News Philly. Another news this noon, Vice President Kamala Harris is in our area today.
She is speaking at the 113th annual NAACP convention taking place right now in Atlantic City. That speech starting just a few minutes ago. Let's head now to South Jersey reporter Brandon Goldner in Atlantic City with all the details there. Good afternoon, Brandon.
Good afternoon. The Vice President is speaking right now. A packed room of people attending the NAACP's national convention. The Vice President is talking about highlighting the administration's efforts achievements when it comes to civil rights and racial equity, including record HBCU fundraising. At 1 p.m., she will be hosting a roundtable with state leaders on reproductive rights. She is expected to leave Atlantic City around 2:30. A lot of buzz in the air as people were racing down to their seats to get a close-up look at the Vice President. We'll be having more information and more on what the Vice President said in our later shows. Live in Atlantic City, Brandon Goldner, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
All right, Brandon, we'll see you later this afternoon. Thank you for that. In other news here, new at noon, Philadelphia police say they are looking for this man you see on your screen right now in a distinctive NASA sweatshirt who is wanted in connection with an alleged sexual assault. That attack happening at the Snyder Avenue station on the Broad Street line around 4:30 this morning, according to Philadelphia police. Investigators tell us the man was armed with a black handgun and was seen riding a bicycle. Police say if you see him, do not approach him. Instead, call 911. We're expecting a briefing around 1:30 this afternoon about this case, and you can see updates this afternoon on Eyewitness News starting at 4 o'clock. Now to Holmesburg, 2 people were found shot and killed in the span of just a few short hours.
Eyewitness News reporter Ross DiMattei has been tracking the investigation all morning.
The first of 2 deadly shooting victims in Holmesburg was found on the 4500 block of Bly Avenue early Monday morning. Police say an unidentified black man was shot at least 6 times, once in the head, 4 times in the torso, and once in the leg. He was pronounced dead shortly before 1:30 in the morning. Just a few hours later, officers found a second homicide victim here, less than 500 feet away from where they found the first one. Police say a man was walking his dog when he came across a shooting victim lying lifeless on the 4600 block of Loring Street. Investigators say the body belonged to a 19-year-old Hispanic man who had been shot once in the head. He was pronounced dead around 4:30 Monday morning. Police say there aren't any suspects in custody yet for either shooting, but there are multiple cameras in the alley where these victims were found. It's still not clear if the 2 shootings are connected. In Holmesburg, Ross DiMattei, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
A Philadelphia man is charged with murdering his 96-year-old mother in her living room. Investigators charged Gary Johnston with killing Bertha Johnston. This happened yesterday in a home on the 4200 block of Houghton Street that's in Roxborough. Police say Bertha Johnston died of blunt force trauma. The death was reportedly prompted by a domestic issue. In Indiana, a man armed with a rifle opened fire inside the food court of the Greenwood Park Mall on Sunday. 3 people were killed, 2 others were wounded before a 22-year-old bystander shot the gunman dead.
The real hero of the day is the citizen that was lawfully carrying a firearm in that food court and was able to stop this shooter almost as soon as he began.
Hours later, an apparently targeted shooting in the nearby town of Beech Grove left 1 person dead and 3 others injured. This morning, that town's mayor said Indiana's permitless open carry law is a mistake.
Now to a southwest Philadelphia homeowner who has a major cleanup ahead today after a driver crashed into their house. And as Eyewitness News reporter Keisha Bailey reports, the homeowner says this is not the first time it's happened.
The cars, they don't pay attention to the speed limits.
After a long morning, homeowner Diane Thomas is frustrated.
I'm just too through. I'm still trying to process this. I just can't believe I'm out here looking at my house like this.
Just after 2 a.m., a car slammed into her Southwest Philly home on Cobbs Creek Parkway, tearing through her sun porch, a porch she's enjoyed for 27 years. But every day she says she's worried about her safety.
They just fly around the parkway like it's a racetrack. One day I'll be out here, and God forbid, I may get hit, or any other person that's walking along this way.
In 2009, the homeowner had these white cement poles installed around her home to protect her property. But she says, unfortunately, it hasn't slowed down drivers.
Since January, there's been at least maybe 4 or 5 accidents in front of my house.
Karen Noble lives just a few doors down. She, along with others, say they reached out to the city to add speed bumps to this busy road, but it didn't happen.
The city went and put these yellow signs out here for the 25-mile thing because cars were getting hit left and right out here.
So much that Thomas says several cars parked outside her home have been hit. In 2015, once again, a car slammed into her home, then it flipped over, but nothing compared to this time.
I'll never know when something like this was going to happen.
Keisha Bailey, CBS 3 Eyewitness News.
And still ahead here on Eyewitness News at noon, a 77-page report is out about the police response to the mass shooting in Uvalde.
Hundreds of officers responded to that tragedy. We'll break down some of the findings in the report and show you some of the body camera video from the scene.
And there is a next weather alert for parts of our viewing area today. Meteorologist Larissa Abreu is tracking severe storm threats. Ahead, we'll be right back.
We're back now on Eyewitness News. New information about the Uvalde, Texas school massacre. There's also police body camera. It may be hard to listen to. We want to point out that the video is edited to protect the identities of victims and witnesses. Well, the report by the Texas House of Representatives found 376 local, state, and federal officers were on the scene that day, but it took more than an hour before the gunman was confronted and killed.
You want to go in there? No, because what if he comes around? Yeah, we got covered, wait.
The 77-page report was released Sunday to family members of the 21 victims. The acting chief of police in Uvalde the day of the shooting was put on administrative leave.
And a Uvalde artist and professor is organizing 21 murals to remember the 21 victims.
When you're driving by, you're reminded, and this is a part of the process of healing that we need to never forget.
And the artists learn about each of those victims before creating each mural.
Now to the latest on the war in Ukraine this noon. President Volodymyr Zelensky has dismissed 2 top officials. The president says the officials were not doing an adequate job of rooting out Russian collaborators within the Ukrainian government. Meanwhile, the Ukrainian government says 4 civilians died in attacks over the weekend, and at least an additional 13 people were hurt. The country says cities and villages in 7 different regions were attacked.
And now to Washington, where former advisor to President Trump, Steve Bannon, is heading to trial today. Bannon is facing criminal contempt of Congress charges for defying a subpoena issued by the House committee investigating the January 6th riot at the Capitol. Now, a conviction on each count carries a minimum of 30 days in jail and up to 1 year behind bar. The next committee hearing is set for Thursday, which you can watch live right here on CBS 3. And still ahead here on Eyewitness News, it's a chance for one Philly to show off.
Kyle Schwarber hits home plate tonight, hoping to knock 1 or 2 or a few out of the park. Larissa.
Well, the weekend, we have our eyes on the weekend, and yes, the heat is going to continue. 94 on Saturday, feeling more like 98. By Sunday, a little bit better at 93 with a few afternoon thunderstorms. We'll be right back.
Welcome back. Tonight, the Phillies' Kyle Schwarber will get a chance to do what he does best, which is hit home runs, of course. Schwarber will be competing in the Home Run Derby ahead of tomorrow's MLB All-Star Game. So Schwarber, who has already hit 29 home runs this season, is the #1 seed in the contest. But winning won't be easy. He'll have to find a way to beat the Mets' Pete Alonso, who is hoping to win the Derby for the 3rd straight time. It all starts tonight at 8 o'clock. Meanwhile, the rest of the team, the Phillies, they are heading into the break on a high note after sweeping the Marlins. The Phils scored 4 runs in the 4th inning, and then Aaron Nola did the rest, holding Miami scoreless through 8 1/3 innings before Jose Alvarado closed the door. Phils go on to win 4-0, and they host the Cubs on Friday after the All-Star break.
With the 17th pick of the 2022 MLB Draft, the Philadelphia Phillies select Justin Crawford, an outfielder from Bishop Gorman High School in Las Vegas, Nevada.
Oh yeah, Phillies fans hoping to hear that name in the lineup in another few years. The Fightins taking Justin Crawford with the 17th pick in the draft. He is the son of 4-time All-Star Carl Crawford.
So you may have noticed we're on a brand new set here at CBS Philadelphia. In addition to this new change, we're also excited to tell you about the launch of Next Weather.
So to plan your life, you need to know what's next, whether that's within the next 3 hours or the next 3 days.
And Next Weather is all about preparation and accuracy. It means no surprises. So once it's on our radar, it's also on yours. And speaking of the radar, guys,
it's busy.
Later on today, we are anticipating for it to be busy. A cold front's going to trigger the threat for severe storms, and that's why you should definitely be weather aware on this Monday afternoon. It's been busy, hot, and humid, and unfortunately, the heat and humidity sticking around for the rest of the week. We want to send you right outside, and you can see the cloud cover. A couple of breaks in that cloud deck, but boy, it is hot. 89 is the current temperature out the door here in Philadelphia, but humidity values have been high all day long, and because of the high humidity, it currently feels like it's 99 degrees out there. Yuck. I know. Take a look at that dew point temperature at 75 degrees. Notice the feels like 99. We do have a little bit of a wind, but the southerly wind is also ushering in, pumping in that humidity, and wind gusts at the moment are coming in at 22 miles an hour. So a little bit breezy, and that may help if you find yourself it's cloudy out there, so in the shade, but it's quite hot, quite stifling. The next couple of hours, those temperatures riding in the 90s, but feels like temperatures well above that. We already can check that off this afternoon. By the time 5 o'clock rolls around, this is when the threat for severe weather will begin to unfold across parts of our region. We're tracking rain, some of it heavy, in addition to those strong winds. So let's go ahead and talk specific timing. This is 5:30 in the afternoon. You can see that line of thunderstorms, a broken line of storms traversing our western areas with some downpours also attached to it. By 6:30, if this is the time you're leaving from work, it's going to be quite messy out there. You want to budget 5, maybe even 10 extra minutes during your commute. You also want to slow down. It's going to be a mess with that rain coming down pretty heavily. This is 7:30 in the evening, and it's still raining, but notice the brighter returns here. They do begin to diminish as this line crosses into New Jersey. So the severe weather threat, I do believe, diminishes shortly after 8 p.m., but downpours are still on track, still possible as this system continues to sag on south. So some of your severe weather threats that we are watching for you, and brief spin up is not out of the question, but I think a bigger concern will be strong wind gusts in the order of 60 miles an hour. Some hail is a possibility, but it's that heavy rain that's going to take the cake as far as who's going to see what. And the truth is, we can use the rain. Now, once we get done with this, well, with our severe weather threat, here comes the heat, and we're talking a string of 90-degree days all week long. Temperatures are going to be in the 90s, but peak heat will unfold Wednesday and Thursday. That's when heat index values will approach the triple digits. So we're talking dangerous heat here for the middle of the week. You want to stay hydrated, keep cool. Splash parks, also libraries, a mall, anywhere you can keep yourself cool. It's going to be dangerously hot over the next several days. And because of it, we have issued a next weather alert not only Wednesday, Thursday, but of course today for the possibility of those strong to severe storms. A simple tool that I always tell people, download that CBS 3 app. It's free. And if any warnings pop up in your neighborhood, you'll be the first to get them. By Tuesday, we're actually looking at more heat, more humidity, temperatures in the 90s. And then Wednesday, Thursday, those are going to be the 2 tough days. Once again, we have issued a next weather alert day for both days, as temperatures will be well in the 90s. And then I'm going to step aside so you can see the rest of the forecast. Really no relief. We're at 91 degrees on Friday, 94 by Saturday, and we're still in the 90s on Sunday. We'll be right back.
A horse racing venue in Minnesota hosted animals not typically found in this part of the world. These are ostriches racing as part of an event called Extreme Race Day. Camels and zebras were also racing on the track there.
And say hello to Cheddar. This rare orange lobster is headed to a new home after it was saved from becoming a meal. Employees at a Red Lobster restaurant in Florida noticed the unusual and rare coloring. They called the Ripley's Aquarium in Myrtle Beach to take Cheddar. The lobster is going to get acclimated first before going on display.
Cheddar lives to see another day.
Well, before we go, let's get a final check on next weather with Larissa.
Well, it's a hot one out there, and that's probably the big story on this Wednesday. It's hot, it's humid, it feels like it's currently 99 degrees out there. But aside from that, there is also a severe weather component to talk about. The best chance to see severe weather between the hours of 4 and 10 p.m. tonight. Stay weather aware and have a way on getting alerts.
So nice to be sitting near you in the studio for the first time in years, Larissa.
Back. I haven't seen you guys in years.
Yes.
It's been a long time.
Well, that's Eyewitness News for today at noon. I'm Jim Donovan.
And I'm Janelle Burrell. For all of us here, thank you so much for watching. Eyewitness News continues at 4 or whenever news breaks. And of course, we're always online at cbsphilly.com.
Young and the Restless is coming up next.
Have a wonderful afternoon.
You don't have to pay for an app or a streaming service to watch Eyewitness News. Download the free Pluto TV or CBS News app and search CBS News Philly.